Hey guys, welcome to the podcast. I have a very special guest. Our own Sarah Snyder is back on the show. Guys, I love when Sarah comes on, but someone told me recently, I asked them, I said, what are your favorite episodes or what do you like to hear about the most? And honestly, and I'm not just saying this because Sarah's on, like they literally said, I love when it's you and Sarah on. Like you guys are so great together. So, Sarah, welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And that's such a kind comment. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing.
Yeah.
hmm
And it just happened. Like literally someone just told me that. So Sarah and I are going to talk about like this topic's awesome. We're going to talk about how should medical affairs engage on social media, which actually ties in really, really well to our sponsor. So this week's sponsor is our friends at Medical Watch. And Medical Watch helps MSLs and medical affairs professionals understand what HCPs are saying about your products and diseases on social media. So they are the go-to tool for social listening. And a lot of people say to me, like, hey, I feel like I'm falling behind when it comes to like digital and social and AI and all this stuff. Like, this is exactly what you need to start to use. It's free to sign up. So you could check them out at medical.watch. Um, and it's free. Check it out. People love it. I love it. And they're a great partner of ours. So Medical Watch, check them out. So let's jump into it and get into this conversation. So I guess we'll start with when it comes to um, social media and social engagement, like that topic. Why is it important for MSLs
hmm
and medical affairs professionals to consider or know how to engage on social media in today's environment?
I saw this question, and I have to tell you, I'm in the market for a car. Okay. And so when I was thinking about this question, I was thinking about myself going to buy this car. And I promise this story will tie back around to the actual topic. But I didn't go to a car magazine. I didn't even go, I went on the website a little bit of the model and the make of the car that I wanted. But honestly, I went to this forum on Facebook. It's a Facebook group of people that are around my age. And I did a keyword search for the model of the car that I was looking for, and I looked for comments. And I thought to myself, wow, like this is the group that I trust. And this is what I did to go look and see what kind of car other people liked. They're not the people that live in my area. They're not my neighbors. I probably would ask them to, but like this is like an external social media group that has a lot of people that I've never even talked to, but I'm trusting them with my car decision. And I thought, most people are like this. We're living in this digital world. Yet we're light years behind in medical affairs as MSLs. Like and there's some compliance reasons why that we're going to get into. Like I'm not saying go all gangbusters and do everything on social and be posting. Absolutely not. But the reason we should be engaging on social media or at least thinking about it and checking to see where our thought leaders are is that's where people are. And we have to go where people are and where decisions are being made and where the comments and engagement is, or we're in the dark ages.
Yeah. And
hmm
the crazy thing is, like, this seems like a new topic, but it's not really a new topic. I did a podcast. Geez, I've done a couple of podcasts on like social media and medical affairs. Like, it's been like 2 years that this has kind of been building up, and we've seen so much progress over those years
Yeah.
that it's becoming more and more important. So as it relates to that, like what platforms do you think are most effective for MSLs and medical affairs professionals to build their professional presence?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's funny that you mentioned that this is not a new topic because the very first episode of MSL Talk that I ever listened to was the episode you did about Twitter. So related to this specific question, it's still, and now it has a new name, right? X. But
Yeah.
a lot of specialists still hang out on Twitter or X and share their thoughts there. So that's one place where if you just want to dip your toes a little bit, my goodness, you could go back to that episode from what, 5 years ago, whenever
Yeah.
you did it. Hasn't been
Probably
less than,
three.
but yeah,
Yeah.
probably. So yeah, probably. you'd want to listen to that, and you'd also want to dip your toes in and get on Twitter X and at least follow. It doesn't mean that you ever have to post anything. One of the things I think people are worried about with regards to social media is just compliance in general. And so I think the point of this podcast, if you don't take anything else away, is you don't ever have to post. You can just be social listening and following and getting the trends. Ideally, if your company allows it, you can like and you can comment, but with compliance issues, a lot of that is a gray area. So you got to figure out what your company allows you to do. So Twitter X for sure. The other one that's really grown, and we've seen this with some of the MSL teams we've trained recently, is YouTube. A lot of people are out there sharing some good short videos on YouTube, whether they're growing their own professional presence as a KOL or they're doing interviews or some of their grand rounds might be broadcasted, that kind of thing. So YouTube would be another one. And then obviously you and I hang out on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a great one to be a
Yeah.
part of too.
And, and so the episode that you were referring to was with Jason DeMuth, I
Mm-hmm.
believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to think of the name of the episode, but
Mm-hmm.
that episode it was definitely Jason. We talked about Twitter, and the idea, what Jason said was you have to meet them where they live. And what he meant was, yeah, like if somebody, for example, if you have an HCP or a KOL and they're all over Twitter or
Yeah.
now X, well, that's where they live. They've accepted that
Mm-hmm.
as their social media
Mm-hmm.
platform of choice. Some people, like you said, might be on YouTube, they might be on LinkedIn, and they're communicating and they're sharing information, or that's their platform.
Yeah.
So I learned in that episode how important it is to just have an understanding of where
Mm-hmm.
your HCPs and KOLs hang out, and
Yes.
then pay attention. You don't necessarily have to engage,
Mm-hmm.
but pay attention. Now, what he said was he would just like see what they were posting, and then every once in a while
Yeah.
he might answer a question if there was a question posed, or make a comment, or a share or a like as a form of engagement. I think he was able to do that.
Yeah.
So now that's a couple of years ago, and we've evolved, and now we have a term for it. It's called social listening. And
Yes.
that's why I think this episode is so perfect, because
Mm-hmm.
Medical Watch is a tool for social listening.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this has really evolved. But can you share, and it
Mm-hmm.
sounds like it's obvious, but what are the key benefits
Yeah.
to using social media for the understanding of and developing relationships with your KOLs and HCPs, and even for networking purposes?
Yeah. I think the number one thing that it does is it speeds up relationship building because you can learn more about the particular key opinion leader, digital opinion leader, whatever you want to call them, experts. You can learn more about them and what's their style, what's their tone, what do they care about before that first visit or before that second visit. So you can really do your homework and tailor whatever questions you have, whatever conversation, your direction that you're going to go based on your homework that you found via social listening. So it's the speed of relationship building. I think it's funny because people might think that it's going to slow down relationship building because it's virtual and things like that. But you can learn so much if you watch a YouTube video or you listen to someone on a podcast. Tom, you always say people see you at conferences and they feel like they what?
Yeah, they know me.
They know
They're like
you. Yes,
familiar
because they
with me.
saw you. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. I had someone come up to me recently. I swear, this was at Ash just
Yeah.
a couple of months ago. And
Mhm.
someone they literally like pulled me aside, like, grabbed me, and they were like, "I don't know who you are, but I've seen you before." And I was like, "Maybe on LinkedIn?" They're like,
Yeah.
"Yes."
Yes.
They're like,
Yeah.
"I've seen you on LinkedIn. I don't know. I have no idea who you are." And like, I don't know where that came from, but and so it's it's kind of like, I think there's a risk if you choose not to participate. Would you say that that's accurate? Like, would it be a risk for MSLs to not be involved in social media and, be a part of this?
Mhm. I think that, I mean, that's a tough question because I think some MSLs, if you're really experienced and you have other ways of getting the information, fine. But I think that this isn't going away. This is
Yeah.
only going to continue. And these rising stars, especially these more junior physicians that are growing, they're growing up with this, and this is the way they communicate. So
Mhm.
you said it earlier, if we're not meeting them where they're at, I'm not sure that we can adequately be the medical affairs or be the MSL that we truly could be.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I've seen your LinkedIn and social presence over the course of these past few years, and how amazing your content is and how you've grown your network. But when it comes to, and you're coming from being an MSL to now being a recruiter and an MSL trainer. So like, how can MSLs
Hmm.
balance their personal brand and their professional brand on
Right.
platforms like LinkedIn or Twitter? Because that seems like it would be challenging.
Yeah. 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 It's funny because Twitter, I'm not on Twitter anymore, but I was on Twitter as an MSL, and that was because rheumatologists and orthopedics were on Twitter. So for me, I set up an account that was only for social listening purposes, and I did have. I might have tweeted a couple times in my life, but very, very few. So it was more to follow. But I knew that a lot of my KOLs were also in the sports medicine arena. So I
Mhm.
took the idea that my Twitter handle, or whatever you call it, you can tell I'm not on Twitter like to tweet, but it was related to running. And so that way, when I did like something, it just gave them a little bit more. And I was able to like people's posts or tweets where I
Mhm.
was at in my last company. I know not everyone can. But my point here is that it didn't look pharma necessarily. It just looked like someone that would be following them. And that way it wasn't intrusive, but I also wasn't posting anything personal on there.
Right.
So I think that it's going to be hard if you wanted to mix the two. I would, if I was going to be an MSL in today's world, I would have a separate account just for the social listening purposes on Twitter or X. Now on LinkedIn, it's different. If your physicians are on LinkedIn, which I know not all are, but there are some subspecialties that hang out there,
Mhm.
then they're probably going to be looking at your profile before you meet them if that's where they hang out. I know that when we were training an ocular MSL team, she said, "Oh my gosh, I was so surprised because I saw where he had viewed my LinkedIn profile." And luckily, she had a really professional one, but I think that's starting to happen more as well. So to answer your question, I'd separate them, and I
Mhm.
would certainly not try to mix my Facebook and my Instagram and things like that with professional. I think that just gets messy. That's my own opinion. People can make the best decision for them.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with common sense too, and
Yes. Yeah.
understanding, like,
Hmm.
if it feels awkward, then it probably is
Yeah.
awkward. Like,
Mhm.
so you have your own internal kind of barometer as
Mhm.
to how you go about the two. I
Mhm.
think
Mhm.
when it comes to on the professional side,
Yeah.
can you share some best practices for
Mhm.
engaging with HCPs and KOLs through social media? What are some tips and tricks?
So the best tip and trick is going to be related to conferences. So find the hashtag, whatever that particular conference, the next one that you're going to, and follow that hashtag and set a timer, and whether it's 10 minutes or whatever it is. And a lot of you guys are going to have software that does this for you, but doing it yourself too, you might find some things that your software didn't pick up. So I think it's good to understand how it's done,
Mhm.
but set a timer and go through that, 2 weeks before the conference, all the way through the conference. This is the biggest change I think that I see in MSLing. Is it used to be, this is going to age me a little bit, but it was a big deal for us to be able to go share conference information post conference. That was, we were giving a lot of value to KOLs by sharing what had happened. Not going to happen anymore. These KOLs and these social media ambassadors are tweeting. They're sharing it while they're at the conference. It's live, it's happening. So you got to hear like what people are saying and what the sentiments are so you can better share if somebody asks you, how was it received? And then you can share with your internal team, things like that, what's happening, and use the words and the actual language that the KOLs were. So I think I went off a tangent a little bit, Tom, with this particular question, but I think if you don't do anything else, if you don't want to follow your KOLs, at least follow the conference hashtags and use this during those, and you'll be surprised the information that you glean.
I think that's a great tip. And I think it's a safe tip. I think
Yeah.
that, you're not putting yourself in any type of risk or danger by doing that. But what
Mm-hmm.
about how can MSLs use social media to just stay informed
Mm-hmm.
on like, the latest medical and scientific advancements?
Yeah, yeah. Same thing here. Follow the conferences, follow the societies. This is
Mhm.
often a missed opportunity, I think, that people don't do. And if you follow the societies, see what kind of events they have. You might even find an event that's coming up or a recap of an event, or you can see who's commenting on their stuff. So it's not always, people compliance wise, I can't comment, I can't even like, you can still see who else is commenting and you can see what's important to people based on that. And if they're commenting on a society or on a particular new set of guidelines, things like that, you can start to identify trends and have a better view of what might be important to certain KOLs or rising KOLs, things like that. So that would be one way that as an MSL, you can use social media in an efficient way too. I think we all worry and we do not want to doom scroll. This is not the purpose of this
Mm.
episode, is to get people
Yeah.
on their phones. You should be out there talking to KOLs, engaging. This is going to make you a better MSL, not slow you down if you do it right.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Mhm.
I think that's just one of those things where most of us use social media for the doom scroll, for
Yeah.
entertainment purposes, for that dopamine rush. But if
Mhm.
we're also trying to stay informed and we're searching on, let's say it's certain therapeutic information, scientific information, our feed is going to pump that to us. So
Yes.
as new
Yeah.
things come out,
Yeah.
we'll get that in addition to the funny videos of, old people falling and us laughing at their
Yeah.
expense, like
Hmm.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, but what about, I'm sure that there's definitely some pitfalls or mistakes and some of the
Mhm.
things that maybe MSLs should be warned about and medical affairs professionals. Like, what would you say people should avoid doing when they're engaging on social media?
Yeah, yeah. Well, the number one thing that you never want to do is if you see misinformation out there or you see a comment that's incorrect about your product or your disease information or you disagree, you absolutely do not, no matter what your compliance guidelines are, you don't want to comment and start any kind of argument. Or if you see people debating, don't get into that. That's
Yeah.
never going to end well. And your company representative, even if you're not working in a company, that's just never going to end well. You can read it and you can see what the debate's like, but you can't engage like that. That's not compliant. And then I think the other thing is just going to be making sure you're within your own compliance guidelines. There's no problem. You can usually follow people with absolute no issue at all. So you can follow them, whether or not you can connect with people or whether or not you can like or comment on their information. That's where you've got to go with your company guidelines. And then I guess the third thing as far as what you should do socially is just anything that you put out there. Remember that not just your little, it's not, running outside and saying something in your neighborhood is
Mhm.
one thing, but now this is global, right? So anything you can say will be all over. So you
Yeah.
have to be very, very careful. And that goes for medical or anything else too. I mean, if you're applying for jobs and your Facebook is unprofessional, people can find that on a Google search too.
Yeah. You got to be careful
Yeah.
because you kind of
Yeah.
can't take it back. Like once
Hmm.
it's out there, I mean, you can
Yeah.
delete posts and stuff like that, but
Sure. Sure.
sometimes it's too late.
Yeah.
The damage is already done. So you do have to be careful and make sure that you really kind of second guess yourself on, is this cool to post or is this cool to um to engage whatever the situation might be.
Right.
Um, and I thought about you and how you've developed thought leadership. You've developed um an influence. You're an influencer on LinkedIn and people follow you. You have like 35,000 followers. Your content's amazing.
Thank you.
Um, Now, what would your advice be for MSLs on how they can leverage social media to potentially be for thought leadership, for influence, to establish credibility, maybe in a therapeutic area? Is
Yeah.
there advice that you might have on that?
Yeah. Let's go back to the MSL that I mentioned. So she's an optometrist actually, and her profile was really well done. So I think people worry and they think I've got to post every day or I got to post once a week. Just take that out of your head and get a really good profile. Get a good
Mm.
profile picture, write a nice about section. So if someone clicks on you, they can quickly see that you are a therapeutic expert. This is where you can share, your PhD and you did this research, or in her case, like I said, she's an optometrist. She had 10 years of experience in clinic. The KOL sees that, hey, he might be more apt to meet with her. It's like, oh, this is truly peer to peer. So that's your opportunity. You don't have to go start posting and sharing things like that. You can if you want to, if you're allowed to based on your company, but commenting is a great way to get your name out there too. I actually have a good story. I saw a person that was commenting on my post yesterday, and I'm like, oh, wait, that's a candidate that I spoke with her like 3 weeks ago. She commented and it came back in my brain. I hadn't checked my big list yet, and I submitted her for a job. So sometimes it's just keeping top of mind, whether it's to a recruiter or it's to a KOL, things like that. Commenting can get you a long way. And in general, when you're thinking about what you would comment, it's not that hard. Think about what you would say to someone in real life. And that way you can gauge what you should and you shouldn't say. If you wouldn't say it out loud to them, you shouldn't say it, but you don't have to put all kinds of time into it either. It's just a comment, just do it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I like, that advice that you started with, which is to just clean up your profile on LinkedIn
Yeah.
as a start,
Yes.
because so many people we see like like having a profile is important, but having a really good profile in this day and age is even more important. If you
Mhm.
don't have a photo, or if you have a bad photo, people notice it. That's
Yeah.
your brand. That goes a long way.
Mhm.
If you don't have a profile at all, you're not even in the game. You're not
Yeah.
even a part of this whole thing.
Right.
So I think that at the very, very least is to make sure that you start with a good social presence, especially on LinkedIn, because it's professional and because people are going to go on there.
Mhm.
And then from there you can, if like literally if you're totally starting out, um, as you said, you could start to get involved in the game a little bit when it comes to likes and shares and comments and that sort of thing. You just get better at it as you go and you get more comfortable, and then you become part of this, whole social experience. So,
Yeah.
um,
100%.
let's talk about, I haven't been avoiding this question because it is an important question, but let's talk about the compliance and regulatory considerations. And I know that, um, it's tricky when it comes to engaging on social media. There's a lot of rules and there's a lot of compliance and there's a lot of risk. So can you talk about that?
Yeah. Well, I think that whether or not you have compliant, everybody probably has compliance guidelines, but one general rule of thought is you're never going to put anything product specific out there, and you're not going to comment on anything product specific. Obviously, if someone posts something about a side effect of your product, no, you're not going to comment anything like that. The things that we're talking about commenting on for a healthcare professional would be more so a key opinion leader puts a picture from a medical conference or shares that, hey, our publication just got put out there in the New England Journal of Medicine. A nice congratulations. This is really insightful and it's going to move along medicine. Those are the kind of comments that, generally speaking, aren't going to get you in any trouble. Again, you got to make sure that it's allowed, but those are the ones that you can do. as you want to know what they're saying about your product, okay, but it's not going to be your job to be the one to police that. It's good to keep an eye out for, but it's not ever going to be something where you comment and say, oh, this isn't true, package insert says this. That's not the kind of game that you want to play on social media.
Hmm.
Mhm.
No, that's good advice. That's good advice. And I think it's just really important to stay on the safe side of the
Yeah,
equation.
totally.
Understand what your company's parameters are and what their compliance guidelines are. I think that's really important.
Mhm.
Um, so what about using social media to enhance collaboration and knowledge sharing between MSLs and just different parts of the organization or even different regions?
Well, I think that if your company posts and allows you to share posts, I mean, that's a great thing to do to share your own company's. And it doesn't have to be, again, anything drug specific. It might just be that you had lately the International Women's Day, and I saw some companies post and then some MSLs share that. That's showing that you're proud of where you work and that your company values the people in the organization, and then you're excited about it. So those are the kind of things that light up people's feed. We all have enough negative things, so I think that's a no-brainer. I think that if there are other people on your team that are posting, or your marketing team is posting and you're allowed to do anything with that, engaging in other people's stuff is always the best way to just boost the relationship. Nobody's gonna ever get upset with you or dislike you because you liked their post or comment. It's a great way to start building that relationship. And then as far as MSLs, I mean, that's the whole idea of LinkedIn, is that you're no longer siloed wherever you are geographically. You can
Mm.
literally connect with other MSLs. It might feel a little bit awkward at first, but it's a new way of networking where if you can't, I know MAPS is coming up, if you can't travel to that meeting, maybe you can network with a couple people who did and ask
Yeah.
them, hey, do you think this is something I should do in my future? It's a little expensive. I got to pay for it myself. Is it worth it? Ask them for advice, and that's always going to be a way to build relationships. So it's just a tool, Tom. It's a tool to further relationships.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that the people that I see that are really good at this are just creative and they
Mhm.
think about how to use these tools or how they can insert themselves or share something. It becomes a part of your day
Yeah.
if once you become good at it, because you just think about, oh wow, this is a great, and I'm talking more from looking at this not just as MSLs, as professionals, as medical affairs professionals, or anybody that's in the the industry. Like
Yeah. Yes.
you just have to start thinking about, is there something I can share, post, comment, like,
Hmm.
and just make it a practice.
Definitely.
Looking at the future now, everything's changing. So we have AI, digital, this, the things are changing so fast. There's all these tools, there's different things coming out. So where do you see things going? Like how do you see this evolve? And I know that this is a very difficult question because it's hard to say, but where do you think things might be going?
Yeah. When I saw this question, I thought about if anybody remembers Clubhouse.
Yeah.
Clubhouse came about a couple of years ago and then went, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter X, they're YouTube. I mean, these are all appearing to stand the test of time for
Yeah.
now anyway. I'm sure there's going to be something else, but I feel like in the near future, that's going to really be it. I think that the future, though, is going to be medical affairs realizing like we got to pay a little bit closer to these digital opinion leaders. We have this new generation coming out of fellowship, coming out the first couple of years of training. They're not going to be speaking and doing things the way that some of the traditional KOLs were or are. So we got to evolve and be able to talk their language and know how they want to share information. When I was in MSL, I remember it was a big deal that you had the speaker programs, right? And you got 10 people in the room and you fly in somebody and they do this speaker thing. I think that we've shifted a little bit. We went COVID, everything digital, and now it's a little bit more in person, but I think it's going to be more of a hybrid, and that speaker is going to be able to do more on a global level and engage via WebExes and things like that that are going to go back. I think it's just going to continue to be a hybrid.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to replace in person. And I believe I'm talking to hiring managers all the time. Nothing beats the in person, but I think we can use all of it if we do it well.
I agree. I mean, I think, and when I asked that question, I didn't expect you to say, "Oh, we're all going to be replaced by robots." That,
Yeah.
at least I
Yeah.
hope that wasn't what I was going to hear. But no, no, no. I don't think any of us necessarily think that or believe that. Um, but I do see that the machine learning and the ability to have our jobs assisted by machines is going to continue. I don't think that's going to stop. And I say this with certain not certainty, but sincerity in that I truly hope that no one loses their jobs because of it. But I do think we all need to evolve and get comfortable with digital tools, social media, engagement, working on our presence as it relates to the digital brand, not just what we might be used to and how we conduct business, how we go about our normal professional life. I just think it's going to be important as we move forward.
Mm-hmm. Agree.
Yeah. And reminder as it relates to that, don't forget to go to Medical Watch and check that out and sign up. It's free. Got to check out that tool. Sarah, you're awesome as always.
Thanks
Thank
for
you. This was great.
having
This was fun. It was a good topic.
This was that I could talk about this stuff all day.
I
We didn't
know.
even get into medical podcasts. So, I mean, that would be a whole nother thing.
Oh
So,
shit. Well, we'll have to come back and do that. That'll be next time. We'll talk about medical
for sure.
podcast.
Mhm.
Awesome. You're the best. Guys, thank you for all of your support. Thank you for all of your comments. Thank you for sharing. And thank you, as always, for your support of this show. See you next time.